we get him. It's like we don't get stuff from him. Like we get him. And from him comes peace because he is peace. From him comes love because he is love. And it's not this transactional relationship. It's an invitation, not an expectation.
Welcome to the Everyday Faith Podcast, where we believe you can live out your faith every day by starting with belief, embracing your mission, committing to obedience, and pursuing community. I'm Dan.
And I'm Jess. Today we've got Andrew with us. He's a husband and father and believes your grocery run might be your next mission field. Andrew's the author of the book, Always Going, The Joyful Overflow of Everyday Evangelism, and founder of the ministry by the same name. We're excited to hear about how he lives out his everyday faith with a bit of a focus on our first pillar, start with belief. And so with that, welcome to the podcast. Andrew, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's awesome to be with you guys.
Oh, great to have you. I know your book, it's just such a fun concept. And so I'm excited to be able to talk about that a bit more later. But first, would you start with sharing about how you came to know the Lord?
Yeah, definitely. I am a Baptist pastor's kid from nowhere, North Dakota, is what I usually like to say.
Nowhere, North Dakota.
My parents did short-term missions in Japan before I was born,
Wow.
and my dad ended up getting arthritis and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that took him off the field and brought him back to the States to do just pastoral ministry work in churches in the Midwest, Wisconsin, and then finally North Dakota. And so I grew up in the guts of the church, not really buying any of it. I have two older sisters who are picture perfect in every way, I like to say. And so by the time my parents had me, I think they thought kids were one certain way, and I knew how to play the game really well. And so I just faked it and was surrounded. And what I realize now is like God surrounded me with an amazing community of believers to get me through my teenage rebellious years. But really, it wasn't until I went away to college and renounced my faith completely, just said, finally, no one's looking over my shoulder. And my parents are amazing. Yeah. Like, they're wonderful. They never forced faith on me or anything. And I just went, no one's watching me. And I like to say God gave me about 6 months before I came crawling back to him and said, well, if this is what life is like without you, I want nothing to do with it. Now I'm all in and just on my floor of my dorm room in Grand Forks, North Dakota, University of North Dakota, gave my life to the Lord. And shortly after that, went to go work at a Bible camp that I grew up going to. And that was the first time that I saw these guys, other guy counselors were a few years older than me, and they made Jesus their entire life. And it was the first time that I saw people that I truly wanted to emulate, not rock bands, not church folk, anything like that. It was real dudes that I wanted to be just like, who had made Jesus the whole focal point of their life. And as we worked at that camp, we did camp counseling for kids, but we would also do work projects in between the camps. And we were sitting in the back of a truck, and they would just be talking theology and Jesus and worship, and that is what just drew me to the Lord. And so it was a long road, but we got there eventually.
Yeah. Hey,
That's amazing.
I think sometimes people think they have to have it all together. They have to be something special in order for people to want to follow them. It's like, actually, I don't know. I mean, from my understanding, like Jesus wasn't, there wasn't a ton that was like special and catching about him in and of himself, right? It's just,
besides he was God, but there's that. But.
And then the miracles stuff. But no, he wasn't flashy. Like,
I tell you.
A lot of times he's like, no, don't tell anybody who I am or what I'm doing. He kept it on the down low for a good amount of time there. But they were just drawn to just his infectious care and the intentionality with which he saw people and spoke into their life.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it's just being everyday dude. That's great. That's all you got to do. Those guys, that's what they were doing. They were just being themselves and loving the Lord and bringing people with them. That's great.
Well, and I appreciate your testimony because, you hear the amazing and beautiful I'll call them more extreme testimonies of people that, went down and just like drugs and everything else you can imagine. And like, that is amazing how God can redeem anything. But I feel like also a lot of people relate to, hey, I was just faking it. Like I was a good Christian boy on Sunday, and then, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, especially Thursday, Friday, especially Saturday, right? Like I was living my way. So it's funny because I think there's a lot. I know I sure could relate to that when I was younger. It was like, I'm this great Christian boy. And then it's like, well, let me like to rebel a little bit during the week. So I appreciate your testimony because so many of us have gone through that.
Yeah, there were these genuine moments throughout that. And so I don't want to make it like so black and white. Like I just hated God. Yeah. And then I didn't. But it's that surrender piece. That I just refused to surrender my life to him. I loved what God could do for me. I loved how he made me feel sometimes. I loved how convenient he was in being so close. But then in the real moments, in the nitty gritty, the everyday stuff, it was like, well, nope, I'm still king. So scoot on over, Jesus, because I'm going to take this one. I'll give you the next one when I don't know what to do. And finally, it was this point of like total surrender that has been, you got to play it out every day, and we got to surrender anew every day. But that first surrender of like, okay, you can have it all, you can have everything, because I'm tired of trying to run this show.
But isn't that amazing that like God allows that? Like we all benefit, whether you believe in him or not, from God. Right? Like we have breath. We were created. Like we all benefit from him, even if we're not surrendered to him. And so people think it's this big switch of like, well, now I've surrendered to God, so I have favor and I'll get everything I want. And it's like, no, you already benefit a lot, but he is such a patient God that he would allow you to go through that, and that he would wait and just keep knocking. Like, hey, Andrew, right? Hey, Dan, like, hey, Jazz, this is what he does. And it's mind-blowing when you realize all the other religions where it's like authoritative, you're going to be my servant, and where our king is, I'm going to serve you. So anyways, I love your story.
We get him. It's like we don't get stuff from him. Like we get him, and from him comes peace because he is peace. From him comes love because he is love. And it's not this transactional relationship. It's an invitation, not an expectation. There's so many people think, I don't want to follow Jesus because there's just so many rules, or there's this or that, and it's not going to be any fun. And it's like, well, no, you know how you have responsibilities in marriage, but you just want to be there with your spouse. And then the responsibilities become a joy because the intimacy is there. I like to say that obedience follows intimacy, but intimacy doesn't follow obedience. And so if that surrender is like, okay, well, I'm just going to give you my obedience, and there's no genuine intimacy and pursuit of him. It's, I think a lot of Christians are walking around with that perspective. And it's like, no, you get him. You just get him. And it's so good.
I love that you said that, because one of our pillars of how you can live out your everyday faith is committing to obedience. And that puts really good perspective on it for the people who are feeling like, well, it's just a bunch of rules. This is the worst. Why would I do that? What a great point.
Well, I love it because it's our first one, start with belief.
Yeah.
Who do you believe in? And you get him. Right?
Let's go there because one of the things that you, as we kind of had our discussion before starting the podcast, you shared the perspective that without belief and knowing what you believe, it's hard to be on mission, to embrace the mission God's given you, or, as you just said, to commit to obedience if you don't know what you believe. So can you share a little bit about why the idea of starting with belief jumped out at you as you were preparing to join us today?
Yeah, no, it definitely. I grew up in a family on mission. I already said that. One of my sisters went to one of the closed Muslim countries in Africa for 10 years to be a missionary. My other sister was headed over to Kurdistan to work with the Kurdish people, but she had some health problems. So like my family gets mission.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah, like we're awesome. No, no, like I get it. And I grew up in this, like I said, the guts of the church, and I learned obedience. And the one thing that I learned really well was how to be obedient, because if I was obedient, then my family would approve of me and my church would approve of me. And then that bleeds its way into, now God will approve of me if I'm obedient. So just do the right thing. And I got really good at that, which is why I was good at faking it as a young man. And like I led the youth worship team while not following Jesus, because I knew what to do, the tasks that it took to be obedient. And obedience is so amazing and beautiful. But if it is the product of trying to earn something from God or from others, like, I don't know who says it, that God is not opposed to effort, he's opposed to earning. The effort is necessary, but it has to be built on a firm foundation. And that foundation is God himself. It's not theology. It's not any of it is who he is at his very core. And so, like I said, with that intimacy, if we don't know who God is, if we don't know his character, if we don't know how loving and patient he is, then the obedience will be a way to earn something from him. And so I wasn't until my late 20s until I finally figured out that he doesn't want my obedience. He wants me. And when he gets me, my obedience will follow. I mean, I did ministry for almost a decade before I really understood that distinction, and even today still struggle with performative faith. Like, that's what I have to continue to crucify, because I'm just so used to trying to earn God's affection and approval. I've had to really lean into the belief side of it. Do I believe you're good and for me and love me? Now my obedience is an overflow of that.
Will you tell us about when you came to that point? Because it sounds like it was shortly after you started Always Going, right? And you'd been a youth pastor. Tell us about that moment of like when you got to that point of saying, "Oh my goodness, I've had this backwards, or I've had this all wrong. I've had the wrong focus."
Yeah, I remember it was, I decided to launch a ministry during COVID. I would not suggest, would not recommend, 0 out of 5 stars. No, but I was doing all of this, and I had been, youth pastor in a mid-sized church. So I was preparing 3 Bible lessons a week to teach, and had been doing so. I came to Jesus and then was immediately a youth intern full-time, and then went to Bible college, and then immediately became a youth pastor.
So you've got lots of knowledge.
It was great, but I never had this. I was never just a Christian. And I don't say that negatively. I say that like I was never allowed to just be a guy with Jesus. It was always, from the time of my salvation, I was leading in some capacity. And so throughout my 20s, I earned. And like I don't have it right next to me, but my Bible, I still have the Bible that my parents gave me when I was a teenager. And I've gotten the cover redone and everything, but in the back of my Bible, I have a list of names, and it's the list of names and dates of the kids that I saved in my 20s. And I would look at that in my 20s and go, look what I'm doing for you, God. Like when I was feeling low, I would pull it out and I would go, look, God, look how useful I am to you. Please don't leave me. Please don't be mad at me. Look, I really am doing something. And that's so messed up. And he brought me to a place at the beginning of COVID where I had left my church. They sent me. It was a very positive thing. The church launched me into this ministry, but no one wanted anything to do with me. They were all just trying to keep the doors open or closed or whatever. And so I had no sermons to teach. I had no lessons to write. I had no people that were asking for me to disciple them. And I sat in this office right here and had nothing to do. So I called my dad and he was like, hey, you should just spend some time with God. Like, you should just spend some time with Jesus. And I was like, oh, okay, I do that all the time, thinking that was a normal thing. Like, my sermon prep was somehow my intimate moment with Jesus. And I sat in my office and I was just overwhelmed, and I just started like weeping. And I was like, I don't know how to fill just for me. Like, I have no idea how to have a quiet time when no one wants something. I have no idea how to read my Bible and not write a lesson. I have no idea how to worship when no one is watching me in the front row. And it just became so apparent to me how performative. And God did great things through the youth ministry, right?
Right.
But it was an internal problem that I had no idea how performative my faith was, and that my foundation was not God himself. It was doing stuff for God. And I just broke down. And I remember reading John 15, 1-5 about the vine and the branches. And I told God, it says, remain in me and I in you, and you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I feel like a dead branch in the middle of the lawn, trying so hard to push out some fruit so the tree will let me back on. And just how ridiculous and backwards that is. And it broke something in me that's been really beautiful to rebuild the right way, where it starts with him and then it flows into the fruit that comes from him.
That is amazing. I mean, you're like, is getting a little convicting in here.
Hot here.
I know. I was like, geez, like, man. I mean, thank you for sharing that. That is such,
Really,
I mean, and then for you to be leading people since you chose Jesus. I mean, that's incredible. But then to realize full surrender and the relationship with him is everything. That is so impactful.
Yeah. I don't know why, but the image of like someone, they're great, someone who's been a trained, swimmer, right? An Olympic swimmer, say, they just jump into the deep end and they spend forever in the deep end, in the deep end, in the deep end, in the deep end. But then it's like, they don't have all that comes out of stepping out of the water and stepping into the shallower, whether it's in the water, in the shallow parts, or outside of the water, they can do other training that actually nourishing their body, right? You can be a great swimmer, but if you're not nourishing your body, your mind, your soul, in other ways, like, man, eventually your swimming's not gonna hold up. It's not gonna keep you going. So,
and there's no joy. Like, it can be productive.
Totally.
It can be productive and it can be
really good
useful, but the joy is gone. Now it's just a job. It's like, what if my marriage just became a list of tasks that I did to ensure my wife's love for me? Ooh. That sounds terrible. And yet all the tasks need to get done anyway. And so if I begin with the intimacy and love for my wife, then I can, even last night, I don't always do the dishes, but last night she had a long day. And so she started to do them and I was like, I got those, right? This is no problem. I got those. Why? Not because I love doing dishes, but because I just love her. And so many Christians are walking around just absolutely chained to trying to earn God's love. And there's so much more.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think of how many marriages then, since you're not getting that overflow from God, like you have overflow. And so you're able to say, hey, I will inconvenience myself for the sake of my wife. But now people are trying to take from other people because they're not getting it from their source. And what made me think of that is, as you were talking, you have this beautiful poster behind you that says Overflow. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that.
Yeah. I am not an evangelist. That's not the gift that God decided to give me. And I run an evangelistic ministry. So everyone's like, oh, you must be great at this. No, I'm terrible at this, which is why I created, a kind of a structure for people who are not natural evangelists. But it all begins with this perspective shift that most, when you think about making disciples and evangelism and things like that, everyone goes to Matthew 28:18-20, right? The Great Commission, where Jesus says, all authority has been given to me, make disciples, baptize, teach, I'll be with you to the end of the age. But I don't think it starts there. And it was a sermon years ago that I had put together. Someone asked me to preach about the Great Commission, and I preached from Matthew chapter 4 and the fishers of men, where Jesus, his great commission, like making disciples, does not begin with go make disciples. It begins with follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Like, then we see the whole story, and then eventually those people who were not able to be fishers of men because of Jesus can now go make disciples, baptize, and teach. And so when I think of Overflow, I really think of like the Great Commandment more so than the Great Commission. Because it says, somebody's like, Jesus, what's the most important thing that God wants, right? What's the most important command in the law? What is he asking?
Yeah.
What does God want from me? Like, what am I supposed to do? And I talk to new Christians all the time that are like, well, what does God want? And Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Like that. He just wants that. He wants you. And when we draw near to God, when we give him all of us, he is so faithful to pour into us and to fill us up. And then when we are full, we overflow the love of God and we love our neighbor as ourselves and to go make disciples. And so I love the imagery there, because rather than filling up and then going and pouring out, what if it's just a perpetual overflow that wherever you go, you're spilling the love of God. You're so full of him that you're spilling him onto those around you. And it is an intentional process. But what if the intentionality is actually vertical more so than it is horizontal? What if we took all of our intentionality and pointed it toward the Lord, that we would be full really of him? Good. And then, be a little intentional with people. But I think it comes so much more naturally when we're full and not trying to fill up by making disciples. That's not how that works.
Wow. What a good challenge. You know, if you're someone, and I'm talking to myself, if you're someone that's like, hey, I want to accomplish things. I want to help build God's kingdom. I want to see structures, people, whatever built. What if we first just started over the next couple of weeks here, just started focusing on how can I do it all from overflow instead of from the performance? And then how do they get overflow is my next question, Andrew.
Yeah. I mean, it begins with a pursuit and genuine love of God. Jesus uses the word abide or remain, stay, dwell. And I love that, where he's just so obvious. You remain in me and I in you. We have to be together, and then you will bear much fruit. And then, just in case anyone didn't understand, he circles back. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Right? Like there's this. It's so obvious and elementary that to get this overflow, it can be easy to try to like rush the process, but you got to be full. Like you have to be full. I think that we're a lot better at the inward focused, like vertical stuff with God, that just focuses on us and our faith. Like know God. We're better at that than we are make him known, but the two are two sides of the same coin here. And so as we grow in not just knowledge of, like you can have the best theology in the world and still not know God. But developing in intimacy and relationship with him, keeping in step with the Spirit and just prioritizing the things of the Lord, it will have an outward effect. I'm huge into like self-reflection and calibration because every day is a new day. And every day we have to choose, like I said, to surrender. And so really a lot of what I teach, it is evangelistic in nature, or maybe evangelistic at the end. It culminates in evangelism, but it's a lot more discipleship and self-reflection on the front end that helps us fill up and stay full. So yeah, that's kind of how I treat evangelism. It's kind of a unique way to look at it, but I've seen it do some cool things.
So I love this. And if you had to give a practical step, right, of, hey, I want to learn what it means to be more intimate with God. Like how do I be intimate with God? I know how I do it with other people, but like God's not here and I don't always hear him, right? So all these questions we have is because it's such a different relationship in ways. What would you encourage someone with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to get to know the genuine character of God. I think a lot of people have painted God to be what they think he is. And it's not even that they've painted him to be what they want him to be. It's what they think he is. Like
Interesting, right.
I don't know, because a lot of people have negative views of God. And it's like, well, if you're just making stuff up, make up some happy things. Why did you make up a bummer?
What is this?
Yeah. So, but as you read scripture, and that's why I love pointing young people, young Christians of all ages, to the book of John. And I just say, just ask yourself one question while you're reading. Who is Jesus? Just who is he? Oh, and write it down. Well, Jesus was interruptible. He's not, there's this one story where he's on his way to go pay for the sins of the world. And there's these two guys that call out and he stops. And it's like, he's got much more important things to do than talk to these two guys. And he stops and he's interruptible. Write that down. Remember that. God is interruptible. That the big things that he's doing are not so important that he does not care about the people that he created. That's worldview forming, just that God is interruptible or God is compassionate. Look through the Old Testament, read through some of these stories and his long-suffering patience. It's like, get to know the character of God, because when it says we're made in the image of God and like what he wants us to be as image bearers, like we are imperfect imitations of the character of God. And so we cannot truly do anything for or with him if we don't understand who he is. So read your Bible and get to know the character of God is like step one, I would say.
So great.
Isn't that so good? Even reading your Bible while thinking and asking the question, who is Jesus? Right? I love that. It's a great step. Thank you.
I have my phone out here and I've got the iPad. I was looking back at the kind of crash course that you provide, and we'll say just a tiny bit about it here, but we'll talk more about it in our next episode. But day one in the 5-day plan course, if you will, that you provide, you titled it The Mindset Shift That Fuels Joyful Evangelism. And everything that we've talked about here today really makes me think back to this, that idea that, man, if we have the right foundation, it's going to fuel, that joyful desire to live out our faith, and in doing so, share our faith with other people, bring people along with us, and the best thing ever, right?
Yeah, I'm huge on shift your worldview, like shift your lens. And I love using my glasses. It's like, hey, your lenses are dirty. Clean those things and let me help you. And when it comes to evangelism, we've got this brochure, and I was like, I was for the ministry, and I was really like, I don't like brochures. Like what? They're kind of boring, right? They're not super fun. Maybe somebody's got a fun brochure. You send it to me. But just trying to figure out what needs to go in here that will help explain what I do and how our ministry can help. And there's two sides of this. On one side, it says, I would share the gospel, but, and then there's a list of reasons. I don't know enough. I'm afraid. I don't want to be canceled. I'm really busy. I don't know where to start. My own life is a mess. I've never done it before, but you're not alone. It's simpler than you think. And then the key thing that I'm leading my entire first pitch with anybody that talks to me about our ministry. And again, day one in that crash course is the mindset shift. And our mindset shifts from obligation to overflow. It shifts from fear to faithfulness. It shifts from methods to message. It shifts from expectation to invitation. And it shifts from gospel presentations to gospel conversations. That's what I want to kind of stake the claim on here, that when it comes to representing God in this world, we must understand that it's not just the Great Commission task job, it's the Great Co-mission. We join God in what he's doing, and he forms us as he uses us. And there's so much joy in that when you understand it correctly. And so barrier number one for so many believers is just you just understand it the wrong way. God never intended for this to be a cold task that you're supposed to report back to him with the results.
Yeah.
It's something that you do together. And so I love the mindset shift stuff, the worldview stuff. It's been super helpful.
I love it. Well, I look forward to having you share a bit more with our listeners next week. And in fact, if I could throw it out, where should they go if they want to start that crash course?
Yeah, the crash course is found on overflowevangelism.com. Overflowevangelism.com. There's a simple place for you to put your email in, and it starts you in an automated 5-day email thing, and then kind of plugs you into our pipeline too. Any response to any one of those emails goes directly to me. So if I've had people who have questions and want to talk things out, or even like share victories and stories. I got a lady that responded to one of the emails. She's like, I'm on day 3 and I already shared the gospel with somebody. And I was like, that's awesome,
Yeah.
But I love hearing that stuff. And so, it's a great kind of little community that we're forming.
Yeah, my thought was that, hey, our listeners, if they've been listening for any length of time, know that we're going to have you back for part 2 next week. And it could be a really fun thing for them to jump in and start your crash course.
Yes.
And then next week, when we get to talking a little bit more about some of the things that you share through Always Going, I mean, they'll be a step ahead. They'll have some of it in their minds already. Maybe get a few more tips as we talk next week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Andrew, as we close part 1, what's something you'd like to encourage all of us with?
Yeah, just the encouragement that we were made to join God's mission. Like it's not that we were made. I talked to somebody recently, and they were like, "Well, why didn't God just zap us into heaven when we become Christians?" Well, because we're supposed to go share the gospel. And it was this very like task-driven thing. Like your whole purpose after being a Christian is just to get someone else into heaven. And I was like, no, it's to know God, right? To know God and make him known. And so just if anyone is struggling with the make him known part, it is easier than you think. And when you begin to shift your mindset, it becomes such a joy. And you realize that half of what God designed you to do is to bring others into the fold, and we get to join him. And it's just a beautiful process. And so rather than looking at it like an intimidating, oh no, I got to go share the gospel, we just get to join God in his mission. So,
That's so helpful. Well, thank you, Andrew. We're so excited to have you on part 2, and make sure you guys tune back in.
Thank you for listening to this conversation from the Everyday Faith Podcast. Our goal is to inspire everyday faith conversations. Please join us by rating and reviewing wherever you're listening, and most importantly, by sharing with a friend. For more resources like this, visit our website, askaboutmyfaith.com. God bless you as you live out your faith in your everyday rhythms of life.